In 2002, Elon Musk walked away from the sale of PayPal with $180 million in his pocket. Most people at that point would have bought a house, maybe a yacht, retired somewhere warm and never thought about money again. Elon Musk did something different. He took almost every single dollar and put it all on the line, not on one company, on two, simultaneously. Both of them in industries that had destroyed better-funded, better-staffed organizations before him. Industries where the default outcome, the statistically likely outcome, was complete and total failure. And by 2008, both companies were days away from bankruptcy. He had watched $180 million evaporate. He was borrowing money from friends to pay rent. His marriage was falling apart. The press was writing his obituary. Not literally, but close enough. And then, in the span of roughly 24 hours, the whole thing nearly ended for good. This is the story of the worst day of Elon Musk's life, what he lost, how fast he lost it, and what happened next, because what happened next is the part that changes how you think about failure entirely. To understand how Musk ended up on the edge of ruin, you have to understand the size of the bets he made coming out of PayPal. The first company is SpaceX, founded in 2002. The goal, absurd on its face, is to make humanity a multiplanetary species by building reusable rockets and eventually colonizing Mars. Not a product, not an app, actual rockets, built from scratch by a software entrepreneur with no aerospace engineering background. The second company is Tesla, which Musk joins and takes over in 2004. The goal there is equally audacious: prove that electric cars can be fast, beautiful, and desirable, and in doing so, accelerate the entire world's transition away from fossil fuels. Both companies are burning through cash at a terrifying rate. SpaceX is trying to do something that only governments with the resources of entire nations had ever accomplished. Every test, every prototype, every failed launch costs millions of dollars and months of time. Tesla is trying to break into one of the most capital-intensive, entrenched, brutally competitive industries on Earth, the automobile business, with an unproven technology and zero manufacturing experience. Musk pours his PayPal fortune into both, not carefully, not with a safety net, all of it. By 2008, he is almost entirely out of money. 2008 is the year everything arrives at once. The global financial crisis hits, credit markets freeze, investors pull back from anything that looks even slightly risky, and two companies trying to build rockets and electric cars from scratch look very, very risky. Tesla is bleeding cash and behind schedule on its first car, the Roadster. Manufacturing problems keep piling up. Costs keep rising. The company needs a massive new round of funding to survive, and raising money in the middle of a global financial meltdown is nearly impossible. SpaceX is in even more immediate danger. They have attempted to launch their Falcon 1 rocket 3 times. 3 times it has failed. Each failure costs millions. Each failure erodes the confidence of the investors in government contracts that SpaceX desperately needs. They have enough money for exactly one more launch attempt. One. If the 4th Falcon 1 launch fails, SpaceX is finished. Not wounded, not set back, done. The company closes. The employees go home. The rockets get sold off for parts. And Musk knows it. He is simultaneously managing an existential crisis at Tesla and an existential crisis at SpaceX, running out of money at both, going through a divorce, and, according to people close to him at the time, barely sleeping, barely functioning. A friend who saw him during this period later described it as watching someone carry an almost unbearable weight. Musk himself said in interviews afterward that 2008 was the year he came closer to a psychological breakdown than any other point in his life. This is the ground he was standing on when the worst 24 hours began. It's late 2008. Tesla's last-ditch funding round is on the verge of collapse. The deal, a critical investment that would keep Tesla alive through the financial crisis, falls apart at the final hour. Investors who had committed are pulling out. The money that was supposed to land doesn't land. Tesla has enough cash to survive for a matter of days. At the same time, SpaceX is preparing for the fourth Falcon 1 launch, the one that cannot fail. On September 28, 2008, the rocket lifts off. For the first few minutes, everything looks right. The first stage separates cleanly, the rocket climbs. And then something goes wrong with the stage separation sequence. The first and second stages collide. The rocket tumbles. The mission fails to reach orbit. In the SpaceX control room, engineers who have given years of their lives to this project break down. Some are crying, some are silent. The weight of what just happened, what it means for the company, for their jobs, for everything, is immediate and crushing. Musk walks in front of his team and says something that those who are in the room have never forgotten. He tells them that SpaceX is not dead, that they will build another rocket, that they will try again, that he will find the money. Nobody in that room was entirely sure he could back it up, but he said it, clearly, without flinching, to a room full of people who needed to hear it more than almost anything.
Here's where the story pivots. In the weeks following the Falcon 1 failure, something unexpected happens. NASA, the American space agency, awards SpaceX a contract worth $1.6 billion to resupply the International Space Station. It is the lifeline nobody saw coming. It validates SpaceX as a serious aerospace contractor. It provides the funding to keep the lights on, keep the engineers employed, and build the next rocket. And on September 28, 2008, the same year as the failure, just weeks later, SpaceX launches the Falcon 1 again. This time, it reaches orbit. For the first time in history, a privately built liquid-fueled rocket had made it to orbit. Not a government, not a defense contractor with decades of institutional knowledge, a private company founded 6 years earlier by a man who taught himself rocket science from textbooks. At Tesla, the 11th hour funding round closes on Christmas Eve 2008, literally the last day the company could have survived without it. Musk puts in the last of his personal reserves, borrowing from friends to cover his own living expenses. Tesla lives.
What follows 2008 is a story most people know, but knowing the before makes the after feel completely different. Tesla releases the Model S in 2012. It wins every automotive award worth winning. It proves definitively that electric vehicles can be world-class cars, not compromises. Tesla becomes the most valuable car company on Earth, then one of the most valuable companies, period. SpaceX becomes the first private company to send astronauts to the International Space Station. It develops the Falcon 9, a rocket with a reusable first stage that lands itself back on a drone ship after launch, cutting the cost of getting to orbit by a factor that the entire aerospace industry said was impossible. At his peak, Elon Musk becomes the wealthiest person in recorded history. His net worth crosses $300 billion, from borrowing money for rent in 2008 to $300 billion. But here's the number that puts everything in perspective. On a single day in November 2021, as Tesla's stock fluctuated and market conditions shifted, Elon Musk lost approximately $50 billion in paper wealth in 24 hours. The headlines screamed. The internet reacted. It was treated as a catastrophe. Musk barely mentioned it, because a man who has already stood in a room full of people who were counting on him, with no money left and a failed rocket behind him, and told them, without a safety net, without certainty, that they were going to try again, that man has a very different relationship with the concept of loss.
There's a version of Elon Musk's story that's easy to tell. The genius, the billionaire,
the man who builds rockets and disrupts industries. That version is true, but it's incomplete. The more important version is the one from 2008, the version where everything is collapsing simultaneously, where the money is gone, the rockets are failing, the investors are walking, and the press is circling. Because that version reveals the thing that actually built everything that came after. Not intelligence, not capital, not connections. The refusal to accept that it was over. Every great company in this series, Google, Nvidia, YouTube, shared one thing in their darkest moment. Not a brilliant strategy, not a lucky break, though those came too. It was someone in the room who decided, against all available evidence, that they weren't finished. In 2008, in that SpaceX control room, Elon Musk was that person. Everything else, the billions, the rockets, the electric cars, the satellites, came after that moment. Not despite the failure, because of what he chose to do inside it.
The $1 billion loss that made headlines? That wasn't his hardest day. 2008 was. And now you know why nothing since has seemed to stop him. If you want more stories about the moments behind the success, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, is there another founder whose real story you want me to dig into?